Hey art nerds! Today we are going to talk about Faber-Castell Goldfaber Aqua watercolor pencils. I promised you guys a while back when I did my Faber-Castell live stream that I would talk about these more in depth, and I am here to do so today. So this is a comparative review. We're going to be comparing these to the Faber-Castell Albrecht Durer watercolor pencils, and I want to disclose that this set of Goldfaber Aqua watercolor pencils was sent to me by Faber-Castell. They did not provide any other sort of compensation for this review, and all opinions are my own, so hopefully you guys can still find this helpful. The Goldfaber Aqua set we're talking about today is a 48 pencil set, and there is a big unbox and swatch video where you guys can check that out, so I'm going to have that linked in the description below. This is part of their Creative Studio line, and I wanted to compare these against Faber-Castell Albrecht Durer, both on styling quality and the color numbers. So this line is created for student and hobby artists. They're $1.25 per pencil on Blick, and you guys will be able to find a link to that, as well as links to everything else mentioned in this review, as well as a full transcript down in the description below. You can get the set of 48 for $35.01 on Amazon, a set of 24 for $31.99 on Amazon, and that math just doesn't quite add up right. And you can get a set of 24 Albrecht Durer watercolor pencils for $25.82 on Amazon right now. So currently the Goldfabers on Amazon are more expensive than the Albrecht Durer watercolor pencils. The Faber-Castell site promises soft and intense color laydown, outstanding color brilliance. The packaging comes in a hinged metal tin that snaps shut, 2 tiers of pencils. The first tier has handy elastic straps for removal, and I wish more brands did this. The second tier is not designed for removal, and both plastic tiers are slightly flimsy, so do be careful when you're removing it. It comes with an informational booklet that I'm showing you guys right now that lists all of the colors within that range, talks about the products themselves, gives you a little bit of Faber-Castell fluff, and also includes some neat tips and techniques that you guys can try out yourselves. So if you're a beginner artist, this handy booklet is a great place to start. The packaging takes up a lot of space on the desktop as the top is hinged. It can't be put underneath the bottom to conserve space. And I'm not going to read all of what is in this booklet, but I'll read a little bit of it. So this is an Eco pencil with a 3.3 millimeter core. That's smaller than the 3.8 millimeter cores that most other watercolor pencils have. These are break resistant. They're water soluble. They use a water-based Eco varnish. They're made in Germany. There's 43 total colors in this range, and this is an hexagonal pencil. The booklet, as I said, also provides some inspiration, a few techniques, and motivation for beginner artists. So compared to the Albrecht Durer watercolor pencils, one is their studio line, the other is their artist/professional quality line. I only own a 24-piece set of the Faber-Castell Albrecht Durer, so it's just a single tray, so we cannot compare the tray system on this. The plastic trays are pretty similar. The tin and hinge mechanisms are pretty similar. The Albrecht Durer did come with an info packet, but I've misplaced it, and that's on me. The Albrecht Durer line has 120 total colors. Goldfaber has 43 total colors. Both have hexagonal bodies. Goldfaber Aqua has a matte gray body with a color-coded cap. Albrecht Durer has the entire body in color. So it's kind of the reverse of Caran d'Ache's Super Color 2 in their Museum Rackrell. Albrecht Durer has SV bond. Goldfaber promises wood glue to core to prevent breakage. And over on the Amazon listing, it says it's an SV bond as well. But I couldn't find any of the SV bond logo on any of the Goldfaber Aqua pencils, so take that for what it's worth. Both have color numbers, and I'm going to compare the color numbers to see if they match. Now, some of them do match. It's not a perfect correlation, even though this is a 48 color set. There's some near misses, but not quite. So I'm going to pull the ones that do share the same color number and swatch them for you guys. And there are no color names written on the Goldfaber pencils, just color numbers, but they do seem to match. There's no light fast information available on the pencils, nor is there light fastness information for these online, but the Albrecht Durer pencils do have light fast ratings on each individual pencil. It seems like the color systems do match, so you could augment the Goldfaber as your starter with the larger Albrecht Durer set if you so wish. And there's lots of skin tones and pinks in this set. The set seems like it would be a good beginner set for people who like to draw anime and manga inspired art, who like to draw flowers, and who like to create really colorful, beautiful, vibrant art. So if you guys have any questions or comments about this video, by now YouTube has taken away the ability to comment on most of my videos. So please hit me up on Twitter at Nattosoup, N-A-T-T-O-S-O-U-P, or over on Instagram, same handle. Let me know which video, in fact, link the video so I can check it out, and let me know what your questions are, and I'm happy to try and help you out as much as possible. I also have an art-centric Discord channel, The Paint Box. I'm going to pop a link to that down in the description below. But within that Discord, the community at large provides reviews. We share our opinions on art supplies. We provide light critique, help, and inspiration. So if you're looking to find a friendly, helpful art community, the Paint Box might be just such a community for you. And you guys might wonder, what funds this channel? Because I don't see any outside sponsorship from any of the brands that I review. And even when products are sent to me care of, which is pretty rare, I would only say about 10% of the time does this happen. But even when products are sent to me care of, I'm not in any other way compensated for my time and my materials and my knowledge. Well, my wonderful art nerds over on Patreon are the reason this can happen. So what I'm doing right now is I am selecting the colors that I want to swatch. Now, we don't have a one-to-one correlation between the 24-piece set and half of the 48-piece set, so I'm also trying to find closest or best matches when possible. The Goldfaber colors that I'm going to be swatching for today's review are 101, 104, 107, 109, 115, 121, 126, 134, 151, 143, 120, 140, 149, 162, 161, 170, 167, 192, 283, 273, 233, and 199. The pencils themselves do not have their color names written on them, so we're going by color number. I've also selected some comparison pencils to swatch. The colors we're going to be swatching for that are 107, 104, 140, and 120, and that is in both Albrecht Durer and in the Goldfaber Aqua pencils. And I apologize for any buzzing that this recording picks up. I record on my phone and it will record notifications. So I am going to be swatching in an Arteza watercolor pad, not because I particularly love the Arteza watercolor pad, but because I ran out of paper in my Canson XL watercolor pad. So do not take this as an Arteza endorsement, because it is in no way, shape, or form one. And you guys saw a sneak peek of some of the other watercolor pencils that I reviewed in this ongoing series. So keep an eye out for Derwent Inktense pencil reviews, Faber-Castell Albrecht Durer pencil reviews, Supercolor 2 watercolor pencil reviews, Prismacolor watercolor pencil reviews, Crayola watercolor pencil reviews, Lyra, and I may even get around to the Prima Marketing watercolor pencils. And again, if you like what I do and you want to help me continue to do it, you can join me over on Patreon. That support really goes a long way. So I'm doing a little bit of opacity testing as part of my swatching. So I'm using an alcohol marker to lay down 3 black lines on our paper. We're going to overlap our pencils on top of that just a little bit, just to see how transparent, translucent, or opaque they are. And I found that these have a bit of a harder lead than the Albrecht Durer pencils. Those are much more buttery than these. And there's not a lot of dust, at least while I'm swatching. All right, now that we have everything swatched out, it's time to add a little bit of water. So I am going to be using the same brush that I have used for all of my watercolor pencil reviews, a Princeton Aqua Elite synthetic watercolor brush. And I found that the colors activated pretty readily, and they're not as pigmented as the Albrecht Durer watercolor pencils. And stay tuned, I've got a side-by-side comparison coming up. All right, now that our swatches have dried, let's do that side-by-side comparison. We've got blues and yellows. We're swatching 107, 104, 140, and 120, and the color number matches through both lines. So I'm starting with the Faber-Castell Albrecht Durer, and then underneath I'm going to do the Goldfaber Aqua pencils. And now that I've applied my swatches, I'm going to add a little bit of water. I noticed that the blues, 140 and 120, are noticeably different in the Goldfaber line from the Albrecht Durer line. The leads are harder and not as buttery. Goldfaber pencils tend to feel a bit thinner than the Albrecht Durer pencils and have slightly smaller leads. They're definitely not as pigmented. In the side-by-side swatches, the Albrecht Durer watercolor pencils are much more saturated and pigmented than the Goldfaber Aqua. The Goldfaber Aqua are quite pale in comparison, even though I specifically selected colors for the overall swatch comparison, which will show up on the screen in just a second. I specifically selected colors that would match the Albrecht Durer palette. Goldfaber is slightly harder and not as buttery, and it doesn't feel as nice or as smooth in the hand. So you can really tell these aren't as pigmented when you add water, and you notice that it just doesn't go as far as it would if it were the Albrecht Durer. The Albrecht Durer pencils are more saturated, the color goes further, you get more pigment in each pencil. And here's our side-by-side comparison with the Goldfaber Aqua to the left and the Albrecht Durer to the right. Albrecht Durer watercolor pencils are more saturated and pigmented than the Goldfaber Aqua, as hopefully you guys can see here. The Goldfaber Aqua are quite pale in comparison, and I did specifically select colors that would match the Albrecht Durer line so we could do a comparison. Goldfaber is also slightly harder and not as buttery, and it doesn't feel as nice in the hand. So next we are going to do a color wheel test. The colors that we're using for this are 104, 107, 121, 126, 143, and 120. I selected a warm yellow, a cool yellow, a warm red, a cooler red, a warm blue, and a cooler blue for this. So with this larger application, I noticed that there was some dust, but it's not as dusty as other watercolor pencils I've reviewed in this series. They're harder than the other watercolor pencils, with the exception of maybe Prismacolors. The color caps are slightly deceptive, especially with the blues, which makes it harder to select colors quickly. Now that we've got our color wheel down, let's go ahead and add some water. So I'm activating the little pigment samples first. Those give me a good idea of what the original color looked like before I begin mixing. So wet, most of the color sloughs off from the paper onto the brush into my wash cup. The water is also pretty muddy, which indicates there's a lot of optical brighteners in these pencils. The colors are still rich and saturated while wet, and they dried fairly vibrant as well. So what I'm looking for is I want to see those pencil marks kind of dissolve in the water, which means the pigment is being fully activated. You can still see a lot of the pencil marks on the paper though, which tells me not as much color is being activated as I would like. I felt like we got better color activation with the Albrecht Durer line. You can see more of the pencil is dissolved with the Albrecht Durer, and there are not as many pencil marks. So next we're doing the layer test, which means we put down swatches of cool yellow, cool red, cool blue, and warmer blue. And again, our colors are 104 and 107 for our yellows, 121 and 126 for our reds, 120 and 143 for our blues. Now that we have our color swatches down, we're just going to go ahead and use the other color and layer it on top of it. We're looking to see how well they optically blend. That means our eyes blend the colors for us. And then once we finish with that, we're going to put some water on and see how well they mechanically blend. That means the colors actually activating and mixing with one another. So one thing I noticed is that these pencils get consumed fast. And they also do that weird layering thing that the Prismacolors did, where the top layer will activate, the bottom layer doesn't, so the colors don't really mix. And this makes it really difficult to mix colors this way. So in a little bit, I'm going to do a secondary color swatch test, and that's going to allow us to compare the existing secondary colors like green, orange, and purple to the mixes we tried to make. So for these secondary swatches, I'm using 163 for my green, 115 for my orange, and 137 for my purple. And these are much cleaner than the mixes I could achieve. This is a set where you're really relying on what you have rather than what you can create. You're more reliant on existing colors than trying to mix your own. And since watercolor pencils are a watercolor medium, I want the ability to mix colors, and I want good color mixes. I want clean color mixes. That's something that I judge my watercolor pencil quality on. Compared to the Albrecht Durer line, these don't dissolve nearly as well. Without the Albrecht Durers, both layers have better activation, and the pigmentation is way better in the Albrecht Durer pencils as well. All right, so what's my verdict? I want to point out to you guys again that this review was not commissioned, it was not sponsored, it was not even condoned by Faber-Castell. They don't know I'm recording this, but I thought you guys might be interested in hearing the differences between Goldfaber Aqua and Albrecht Durer watercolor pencils. So hopefully this review is helpful for you guys. If it is, please share it on your favorite social media. Help spread the word about my awesome channel. So these absolutely do not handle as well as Albrecht Durer watercolor pencils, but that makes sense. They're student grade watercolor pencils, not professional. However, when listings say highest quality materials, it's understandable that there might be confusion. We also have a problem in US art stores where student grade art supplies are often sold side by side with no delineation from professional grade art supplies at very similar price points, which is why a lot of people think like Cotman is a high grade of watercolor when it's really a student grade of watercolor, or might think that the Goldfaber Aqua is a professional grade of watercolor pencil when they're really aimed more at students, which is why reviews like this one can be really helpful. So these are student grade watercolor pencils. In terms of performance, I would put these above Prismacolor watercolor pencils, but below Winsor & Newton watercolor pencils. And I still classify the Winsor & Newton watercolor pencils as student grade since they use Cotman quality pigments. They're cheaper than the usual going rate for Winsor & Newton watercolor pencils. So in terms of price versus quality, I would say go with these. The quality dip isn't that noticeable. If it comes down to the Goldfaber versus Albrecht Durer watercolor pencils, I recommend spending a little more money. In general, I know the Amazon listing is backwards. The Albrecht Durers are actually cheaper than the Goldfaber Aquas, and go ahead and get the Albrecht Durer pencils. They're going to handle a lot better, and you're going to be happier with their performance. Color activation, pigmentation, and pigment saturation are all way better with the Albrecht Durer watercolor pencils. Pencils are also light fastness tested and list that light fastness on the individual pencils. So if you care about archival quality, Albrecht Durer is a better pick. Color names listed on pencils make it easier to pick the colors you want. Goldfaber Aqua is more like guessing. The Goldfaber Aqua pencils feel lighter and the core is slightly smaller, 3.3 millimeters versus 3.8, so you're getting less overall pigment per pencil. These aren't terrible by any stretch, but if you're a professional artist or you wish to make professional grade art, I recommend getting the Faber-Castell Albrecht Durer watercolor pencils over the Faber-Castell Goldfaber Aqua watercolor pencils. These had a lot of optical brighteners. My water ended up really muddy. I went through the pencils really fast. They kind of are prone to lifting. The colors turn to mud. These are definitely student grade watercolor pencils. I hope you guys enjoyed my review of the Faber-Castell Goldfaber Aqua watercolor pencils. I hope you guys found it useful, helpful, and above all, I hope you found it informative. Hopefully this will help you guys make informed buying decisions. Speaking of informed buying decisions, if you guys see Amazon links down in my description below, I should let you guys know I am an Amazon affiliate and I do see a very small bounty from that. That comes at no additional cost to you, but it does help me maintain channel operations. So if you feel so inclined, please go ahead and use those links. It helps me out a lot. If you're not on the market for art supplies and you still want to help this channel out, please head on over to patreon.com/natosoup and join the art nerd community. I want to thank you guys so much for watching and see you guys again really soon. Bye guys!